And we are back with driving your business and keeping you up to speed with what is actually happening across the world in terms of business and information that you might have missed. Well, according to sources that is actually coming up from the European continent, as the Russia-Ukraine tensions are actually heating up greatly. When you look at the information that is actually coming up, when you look at the international feeds and all the information coming up is that Ukraine was invaded by Russia a few hours back as Moscow launches a full-scale invasion on Ukraine. We did have in our SMB Across Borders looking at the oil crisis in Ukraine with Russia, it being the fact that Russia is the world's second exporter when it comes to the oil producing countries. Now, the Russian President Vladimir Putin announced military operation in East Ukraine's Donbas region as the Ukrainian President Zelensky says Putin had not replied to his invitation to hold any talks. This is quite taking a twist as the United States President Joe Biden denounced the unprovoked and justified attack on Ukraine, pledging the world will hold Russia accountable if at all things don't go well for Ukraine, or if at all things do not go well as far as it is moving on across the world. Now look at that situation that is actually happening in there. We're looking at how Kenyan households are also set to actually undergo some crisis in terms of fuel regarding the same matter. So a number of countries may be greatly affected with the fact that Ukraine and Russia are having ongoing tensions and crisis. One that is actually started as a Cold War crisis that is now majorly going to hit high if at all not checked on, if at all the international bodies will not hit will definitely not work upon this particular situation. So we definitely are still looking on a situation whereby the Ukraine and Russia, but we shall greatly look at it in an angle of business as Smart 24 TV, as we are greatly going to be trying as much as we can to see whether the business community, because Ebly, when you look at some of these particular crises that happen, it actually takes us back to what or how does it actually impact the business community. Remember, Russia, like I said, Russia is actually the second producing country when it comes to oil. Now, speaking of the situation here, is actually taking us back to a situation where Russia has actually made a move to evade the Ukrainians. Now let's talk about some of the other trending stories that is actually coming in from Uganda, as General Muhwezi has revealed that the vehicle surveillance system is set to monitor criminals. This was initiated last year. General Jim Muhwezi came out to actually address the media on the same matter. But now a lot of questions have been asked here and there on how far we've gone with the situation. As the Minister of Security, Major General Jim Muhwezi allayed the public fears that the proposed motor vehicle surveillance system will infringe into people's right to privacy. This was the same matter that he actually came out to address last year, speaking to the media on the sidelines of his meeting with the Committee on Defense and Internal Affairs. If you'll excuse me, that was on Wednesday, 23rd February 2022. General Jim Muhwezi said that the implementation of the Intelligent Transport Monitoring System, that is the ITMS, on all public and private motor vehicles and motorcycles is only intended to minimize high-level crimes like murders, robberies, and motor vehicle thefts. There has actually been a public concern on whether this particular tracking device, or whether when you look at the surveillance system, is going to be halting privacy or an individual's privacy. When you look at the level of privacy, I mean, everyone is supposed to have that the right to privacy, but he has come out to clearly assure the Ugandans and all those that are actually biased and against the situation that, hey, you really need to understand that this is also going to be focusing on monitoring criminals as well, because the country has actually been, for the past few years, not having any tracking of individuals, mainly those that have actually been taking part in different cases like murder and all that. So when you look at the other situation, the project, according to General Jim Mwezi, is about monitoring criminal elements, as they are not interested in monitoring everybody's movements. As he said that adding, just like CCTV cameras, they are not interrupting people's privacy, but they are greatly helping in investigation to track criminal elements. And if you're to look at the situations, it's only when there is a criminal incident that you evoke them to know which vehicles are on the scene of the crime. So government is currently implementing the multi-billion surveillance project through the joint stock company Global Security, which is a Russian firm. Quite ironical that Russia is actually still in crisis currently with Ukraine, but this particular one comes in from, this is a Russian firm, and it's based in Moscow, as government intends to install new number plates with unique security features on all government and private vehicles in the wake of rapid murders and car thefts in the country. And during the committee meeting, Theodore Sechikubo, Remiyaga County MP, proposed that government withdraws the contract signed with the EMS joint stock company Global Security, whose country, Russia, is in the eye of the storm with other European countries following the alleged invasion of Ukraine.
Okay, that is that ahead. We also look at what is happening around the country here. Speaking about the parish development model, which we had yesterday, at least enlightenment of it, but now it is now clear that it will be, every parish will be receiving around 17 million until the end of the financial year, that is according to Parliament. And they are starting July, that will be disbursement of funds in regards to 100 million. But according to Honorable Nabanja, Minister, the Prime Minister. Right, yes. According to her, women and the youth groups have been flagged off first as the first recipients of this particular portion of the development model, and highlighting that they're going to share the biggest share in regards to this on the funding. But while the elderly and persons with disability will be also not neglected after. So I'm coming to learn that it's now not going to the other side that we were even highlighting earlier about giving freedom to, or giving much priority onto agricultural commodities. Of course, women, when it comes to agriculture, they're the leading ones that are leading towards maybe planting or growing. So they lead in agriculture towards the home bases or homesteads around the country. So if they were going to involve men in this, of course, something was not going to come out very well or very adequately that would show that really the implementation progress isn't going very well or fairly. But when the youth and women are getting involved here as the first priority, that means we're going to see a quick and faster change. I mean, when you give it to a woman, that means she's going to put hands on, not to swindle that money, but rather use it very well and rightly. Whereas the youth, what do you think on the youth usage of funds? Youth.
Well, the youth, the only challenge is that
what really happens
sometimes I feel, I've always had this in
your growing up.
Not the growing part.
In your
trying to look for
consciousness,
even for a better word, because in most cases I still feel sometimes you look at the youth leaders and you wonder whether that particular person falls under the youth. So I do believe the youth are around 17 to 34. I don't know whether you get my argument.
Yes.
So at the end of the day, you find a 38-year-old or 40-year-old
still being
representing the youth.
That's
and
wrong.
Now there's a very big challenge there. Why? If we are to look at the parish development model, how do you expect the youth to benefit when even their leader seems to be either way leaving the youthful stage or actually already?
I'm seeing where you're going. Do you remember
So,
social media viral, or I think it was a tweet or a meme that went viral, around allegations reportedly that the youth representative in Kenya, who was, do you remember that?
So the questions are always
was
asked,
looking like a 60-year-old.
and then you wonder,
but honestly, you are
can you
right,
be
because some villages, you're going to find out that if maybe parents or guardians did not invest much towards educating or pushing education towards their children, that means people who attained it are going to take on the
find
bread.
a 60-year-old representing
Yes,
the youth.
and I remember here the executive director FRA yesterday, Ma'am Agnes, was highlighting that you need to be very vigilant, especially
and tactical.
and very tactical on the information that you're going to bound to receive starting now. Because I mean, this week the campaign or the PDM, the Parish Development Model, has been launched, and officially is going to be launched. That is tomorrow, 25th, by the president. And if you're not vigilant, if you're always going to be alert and await, like those are not meant for me. They are meant for a certain group of people. That is why you're going to be misled at a point. So if you're a woman there, maybe you have got a friend, you're watching us, and you know your mother in the village. You have got a sister in the village somewhere. Could you highlight them and tell them to be vigilant about the beneficiaries that are going to be coming along with this? And representative or representation is key. If they do not, if groups or circles are disorganized, definitely the funds are meant to be disorganized as well.
Very true. And disorganization also takes us back to the leadership mainly, because leadership always creates the disorganization. Why? Because if the leader is not willing to control the people he's leading and try to help them understand the importance of these funds, then in the long run you'll understand that these particular people will not actually get the importance of this particular, let's say, parish development model funds that have been aligned by the president.
Okay, and moving further also, President Museveni asked the European Union to open its market to Africa's food produce to improve farmers' income, as well as ensuring that there is sustainable food security around their continent. And this was in a statement released by the State House, that was the day before yesterday, following the President's meeting with the State Secretariat of the Deputy Minister for International Development for the Kingdom of Norway at the State House in Entebbe. So, you know, President Museveni tends to tail off at some point. You know how he tails off. That is one character that he has got. And he's a leader that has been identified somehow, somewhat in that category, that he tails off straight. He's a straight off.
There's a video that says, go and eat your something. So it is a video that has actually got back to me when you say he will clearly tell off.
Yeah, he tells off directly, and that's one character I admire about him. And during the launch of ECOP, the pipeline the other day, he was telling off the non-government organizations that, you know what, we do not need you for us any assessment around the oil projections or project. So if you don't want to check it out, or if you want to check it out, I mean, you're free. Either you want, if you want to sleep, you're in the bush or anywhere, you're free. And the fact that he always tells off about the British or even American governments that they should remove their nose from what is happening around, or governance around this country. I mean, all of those are tell-off points, and at some point they have worked. I mean, if you're at some point going to develop your country, even though you need assistance, but if you're dwelling on towards the people's opinions all the time, Sonko, even in business, you're bound to always be...
you have to be a team leader.
To always be, how do they say... independent, not if you're not independent, dependent. You always tend to be dependent. Thank you so much. I'm going to buy you breakfast from here. But moving on that particular note, so we expect at least, according to the East African Union, which has several instances either banned or threatened the ban of agricultural produces or products from Uganda for over poor quality, but the the European Union still remained on the leading destination on Ugandan products, with an average of around 60.7 million US dollars, around 213.3 billion shillings in the country annually, according to the current statistics of the country. So they are still, they remain the leading leading exporters from Uganda, even though we've got poor quality. It's being highlighted here. I mean, the Ministry of Agriculture even embraces it. Yes, at some point our products are poor, what we export. But we do not need to put it towards the eye of the person like, hey, we're giving you poor stuff or poor produce. Sometimes we sugarcoat it, but at some point, muli abagezi abatu bouncing back. For example, I like Kenya so much for bouncing it back, for bouncing our maize back. But that is has got a lesson to learn from us. And with the European Union here being pinned, I hope, in case all goes well, they can advise more. I understand they are not they don't have soils like us here. They do not grow what we grow at some point, but they can, try to integrate their means and integrate their strategies, what they use for better quality produce. And why not? We can improve our quality.
Now let's talk about the Africa vaccination manufacturing. As since June 2021, the World Health Organization has been coordinating a messenger ribonucleic acid, new word, vaccine technology transfer hub in South Africa. And the hub is important because it will increase the availability of the messenger ribonucleic acid vaccine, including those for COVID-19 in Africa and various vaccines. We actually had a story running as well as Uganda is also looking at
it's producing
yes,
our own vaccine.
So you can see
I remember
African
the ministry highlighted that by November 2022,
they will have
our
a step
vaccines will be not even a step forward.
They will have already manufactured
our vaccines will be already functional. That is according to Ruth Acheng, the Minister of Health. I remember she said that last year, that at least by November 2022, Uganda's vaccine shall already, be maybe in public, functioning or what. But we still await really for that innovation. At least we will be embracing that, and that will cut costs of maybe trying to look furthermore here and there. What are we going to do to vaccinate more people and more reaching out to more people to vaccinate them? What is it, Sonko?
Well, when you look at that, I think it is a step in the rightful direction for the African countries, a step in the rightful direction for the African heads of state and our health facilities in Africa, or the health organizations and the health sector. The different health sectors in African countries.
It will even lead us very well. We will live by example. We've been put out there as Uganda being the Pearl of Africa, but without highlighting more so on what the Pearl of Africa has to really entail. So if we have got our own vaccine and we are vaccinating our people with our own vaccine, you can imagine the countries that have been giving us donations towards vaccination, they are going to be motivated and say, okay, at least they are doing something for themselves. Why not, Sonko? We're bound to always be on the receiving side from donors, and at some point, even when you're, okay, Sonko, you're a man, or how do you feel each time your woman is just a receiving side? Like there is nothing on there adding, but
not good at all, like, I mean.
You see, that's what I'm talking about.
And for the
so
men,
when we make
our women
own
who are willing to give also.
There is a way you feel, there is a way you get energized, there is a way you feel motivated, and you are even willing to inject in more. You're even willing at any point to come in and be answerable at any emergency. But when we when every time we are just there highlighting, okay, we need support, that at some point we're going to get stuck. So this move, by November, if we are too good to go with our own vaccine, I mean, why not? Other countries will look up to Uganda and say, indeed, they are now reflecting Pearl of Africa.
Indeed.
And then we're going to take a break. When we do return, we're coming up with a sport. Do not go away. Keep the remote on.